time to join us today for our presentation, the one we're co-hosting together at the Enzo Motal Clinic with locations in both Dortmund and ToolSense, an event that's entirely dedicated to this very subject we're gathered here to explore in detail and with great interest. Digitalization, facility management, and especially cost efficiency, not just the experience you offer, but the practical, hands-on expertise coming straight from real-world operations here in Dortmund. I'll also take a closer look at the technology behind it, so you walk away with a solid and well-rounded foundation, not just in technological know-how, but also in hands-on, real-world experience gained directly from practical learnings and so on. And exactly, I'll hand it over to you now, Enzo, please. Yes, thanks, Alex. Just one quick point. When we talk about digitalization at Dorfnord, we're referring to the entire end-to-end process.
The toolset's definitely part of it, and when we talk FM, we mean holistic facility management. And when we talk about healthcare now, we're obviously not just talking about hospitals, but naturally the entire sector, senior facilities, clinics, rehab centers, and unfortunately it's still very much the case that we're primarily dealing with a whole lot of paper-based processes across the board. Yeah, that's just how it is. Whether it's a cleaning task, some kind of documentation, a damage report, pretty much anything that comes up in the daily routine of a cleaner or technician, that's simply the way things stand right now. On the other hand, we obviously have, just like each of you knows, opaque channels. That means we communicate through email, Microsoft Teams, Zoom and so on, plus shoutouts, paper, and all kinds of other ways, absolutely everywhere. And that naturally ends up making the whole thing way too inefficient and overly complicated for what it's actually worth. And this whole manual effort, everyone's familiar with it. Documents get gathered up, typed out into Excel spreadsheets, and then communicated all over again repeatedly. That's how everyday life goes. Every facility, day in, day out, does this, making everything unnecessarily complex and, as I said, completely inefficient. And the worst part is, when you're working with Excel and similar tools, you're essentially living in a data-driven world, which is exactly what I pointed out at the beginning. We always approach the entire topic in a truly holistic way. That means if I have access to real-time data, I can reflect on it continuously, and especially in real time. I can think about how I manage my groups, how I lead my teams. How can I generate meaningful insights from this data? Only then, and only then can I truly say we're really in a position to actually talk about automation, AI, or anything along those lines. And before that, I think we can all agree it's just going to be extremely, extremely difficult. There's simply no way around it whatsoever, not at all. Well, we all know that the entire healthcare sector, of course, covers almost every possible response declaration regarding hygiene, safety, everything that happens in daily life. That naturally means we, as manufacturing entities, are required to provide an unbelievable amount of documentation. You can see it here, high time pressure and short response times. And what the manufacturer simply doesn't have is time to document. Filling out lists, filling out forms, and of course we need to try making it as low threshold as possible, certainly also in the local language, providing it to them and getting feedback, which we need again to gain valuable insights and in turn guide our teams in a consistent and effective manner. And then also get them in real time. We all know performance metrics in sorting centers are often far from practical or consistently achievable. And of course, we can't now say, we also want documentation here and you'll need half an hour a day for paperwork. Then all the stakeholders involved, nursing staff, warehouse workers, management, everyone who needs information on a daily basis. Documentation going to the clinic and to Dorfner's management. How do we properly manage and coordinate all of these different aspects? These stakeholders are naturally expected to actively work within the system. They need to become an integral part of it here, not remain detached. And that's the final point I want to make before I hand over to Alex. The economic pressure, the cost pressure, again, completely clear here, both hospitals, but also anyone new entering the field, including service providers, must ensure they operate efficiently, quickly, and of course, cost effectively. And all of this, of course, is meant to serve that purpose. And that's why tools naturally come into play.
Thank you. Maybe let's take a step back for a moment and clarify things a bit. What exactly is ToolSense, you might ask? Well, we're all about streamlining and managing all sorts of processes related to machines, equipment, operating resources, and also assets, like a hospital bed or a room, for example, to digitize everything around them. That's all possible with this platform, so we're transferring everything over. Here we even have the Einheitszentrale software, the Einheitszentrale F, all the way up to the front section and so on. located, and we've then created a simple, effective way for me to digitize a wide variety of processes with minimal effort and maximum flexibility. Dorfner really notices that very, very clearly. That's when new ideas and so on are implemented within minutes. I just mentioned one. When new process data came up, the idea emerged yesterday, and by the afternoon, the tools are set up and will definitely be used at some point. That's exactly what we're making possible here. And secondly, and this might come a bit later, it also goes in the direction of IoT. That means, as you can see top right, there's a small module that could be built into a machine, maybe into a scrubber dryer, where we could then use Bluetooth tags and small Apple AirTags, meaning I can network or tag everything from the vacuum cleaner right through to the Karcher machine, including HFZ systems and all related equipment. We also plug into various value-added systems like HEPA, HAPRO, etc. We connect to them and then pull all the relevant data from their respective clouds into our value-driven cost model as well. And that way we manage to cut costs, save time, and reduce downtime. And that's really what it's all about: digitizing processes, automating them, and getting rid of extra paper and WhatsApp wherever possible. Those are always our enemies.
Yeah, you might think Toolset is just a simple machine management program. That's the basic idea, at least in a nutshell. But we quickly realized Toolset can actually do a lot more. If I can label a machine and link a service to it, then of course I can use it with any given room or any given device. That's why the idea really quickly came about, and of course we've already implemented various objects now. First of all, we naturally have machine and equipment management, maintenance, and upkeep. The classics we handle on a regular basis, but also, and that's exactly what we're focusing on here, the reprocessing of hospital beds. Of course, every bed can be equipped with a QR code, NFC, or maybe even a Bluetooth beacon, IoT. That's naturally something we're flexible on as well, but I still believe less is more, especially when you're just getting started. Let's start with the simple things, let them ease into this world first, and you know what? If the entry barrier is relatively low, it usually works out just fine. But also things nobody thinks about, like a washing machine, biological indicator testing, that needs to be done. Even there, you can use a QR code, place a service request, and actually implement this whole topic quite simply for on-site staff. Cleaning of discharge rooms, scrub wipe detections, isolation rooms, all the documentation we as a service provider have to deliver can easily be equipped with a QR code along with a form or some kind of automated system behind it. Location-based services, so basically any kind of physical space whatsoever, QR code. You really don't need to worry about which particular service or topic we're asking about. The moderator has little time to document, but there are a few pieces of information that are certainly important for our documentation: incident reports. But the key thing right at this moment is that we're gathering data. And now, of course, if you think about this very publicly again, and also how iTools is used in the background, which in turn uses all this data, analyze, process, and then feedback into management, whether in clinics, senior care facilities, in industry, or indeed applied to ourselves, for the purposes of enabling more effective control and steering. Then we have the option to transfer it individually, and all of this is possible solely because the data is captured right at the point of action within a certain collective. And then I have the chance to collect exactly those data, process them night after night, and at the end of the day, in the next morning, have all the data from these cooperative employees, responsible rain gauge, supervisors, whatever their title may be, to naturally provide them with information. Customers, absolutely crucial at this point.
Exactly. So I think one thing that's absolutely key, really foundational, in fact, when we even start discussing digitalization within the facility service segment, is point number one. It's the starting point, the essential piece that everything else builds on. And honestly, you can't move forward without getting this right first. Are in an industry where every euro counts, meaning it has to be as cost effective as possible. It doesn't make sense to invest hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of euros upfront in infrastructure only to achieve impact at some point further down the line. It has to be as low cost as possible, as direct as possible, and above all, it really needs to be user friendly, clear, and easy to grasp in the end. That means this whole approach with the VR code is really it. I scan it and I don't need to download any app at all. I don't need a login, so there's absolutely no need for a company account either. Which, of course, I don't know if you've got one, but it's an important point that I really need to be made aware of. I don't actually need a single company phone at all. I can simply scan it right away. A small web page pops up, and once again, it's important to note that the page opens in the phone's own language setting. That means if the phone is set to languages like Serbian, Turkish, Arabic, or Moldovan, the page will open in that language. The forms can be translated using AI. I can fill them out like this, and then they'll automatically translate back after. That means it's easy to digest for the end user, it's straightforward, and really no major training effort is required at all. Nothing too complicated. And that's it. Affordable, effective, fast, digestible. Then I think we've seen start with one thing. And I think in badminton, the saying goes, appetite comes while eating. I think one thing just led to another. Actually, it's one and the same everywhere. There's paper, PDFs, Excel sheets, WhatsApp printouts. You can get so overwhelmed so quickly. Make life much easier in a low threshold way.
Yeah, now of course it's really all about kind of sharing something with you and showing you why we're actually doing this. I mentioned right at the beginning that we at Dorfner take a more holistic and integrated approach to this concept because Tools as a Line is definitely a tool that can work in a highly flexible and very accessible way for everyone and every company. But as a company, and that's the first point, it's simply not something that runs on its own. We can't expect, and I'm saying this directly to Dorfner, that the CDO alone will handle the entire digitalization effort. It's an organizational task. So we really need to make sure the organization embraces the change, goes through this transformation, and every single person has to be part of it. Because they can introduce the most amazing products, but if they're not well received out in the operational units because they are too complex, too difficult, we see it in hospitals all the time. They're not just paper. I mean, they already have digital solutions, but they're often designed from the hospital's perspective rather than the users. So the hospital's perspective is definitely valuable, but we really need the service provider's point of view. We need the processes in place so we can properly manage them, work efficiently, and ultimately turn a sustainable profit over the long term. But they have to drive the entire company, the entire transformation, not just implement tools. That's really important here. And how do we do that? We simply involve the people affected, and we don't develop solutions without them, which I really like. And my team in the background really likes too. Then we just roll it out. We've, of course, talked to the people beforehand. You can imagine, right? What's it like? Let's run a test, just give it a try. And strangely enough, that's exactly when the ideas just start flowing, and we're actually able to truly make use of that pace and that opportunity. Small steps instead of one big bang. Back in the early days of the entire transformation journey, I was convinced I had to come in with something huge right away, make a real splash, and really create that strong aha moment everyone would remember. I've learned my lesson. That was the wrong approach. Taking employees, colleagues, and management step by step across the company is the way. Eventually, the learning curve comes. And the slope rises, and suddenly everyone's on board and truly excited. So, dear little shooter, even though it might take a bit longer at first, the pace actually picks up on its own in the end. And the most important thing for me is, and that's naturally my task, and surely also for colleagues in other companies who take on this role, is to keep this topic in focus. Everyone knows how digitalization usually works. It's just rolled out, no concept, no strategy. So we always focus on process optimization, standardization, automation. But not just saying, let's go ahead and automate everything without a clear plan, but instead putting in place very specific goals, exactly when we want to achieve what, and who has reached which milestone. That's not so straightforward and not immediately obvious to a lot of team members out there, but through the following platforms, but always without losing focus.
And not trying to do too much. Like I said, the difficulty really comes all on its own by the end of the day. Great, nice. Where's all this heading? What we've actually managed to do now is digitize everything that used to be scattered across Excel, paper, WhatsApp, plus our old inventory and legacy system. That we've successfully moved everything into streamlined digital workflows, that it's actually being adopted, and that you naturally gain a real efficiency advantage here. But what's still around today, the fact that you still have to go around constantly chasing things to some extent, keyword exams, DGV3 exams, for example, there still has to be someone actually keeping an eye on it. We do make sure to notify people, of course, hey, don't forget to do your exams, but at the end of the day, you still often have to chase them down to get things done. With a damage report, maybe we need to make it available first. One more thing, if we say please repair the machine promptly, really do it. And that's exactly what it's about. Our shift from digitizing to automating. For us. The next step in our journey is to fully evolve into a fully fledged KI fleet manager. So you can picture it as a virtual employee inside the computer who actively follows up on tasks, stays on top of everything throughout the day, and, if needed, can even make a phone call at the end of the day to say, hey, please make sure to get this, and this done, and can speed up workflows, boost efficiency, and create valuable. So that's what it's really all about in the end of the day. We're now moving from digitizing towards automation. And then, of course, a very important point, sustainability, particularly regarding CO2 reporting, power consumption, water usage, and being able to track that across an entire fleet, but also across a wide variety of different processes. That's the key, shifting from digitization to full automation, and I believe this will keep us occupied for quite some time to come. Yeah, one more thing. I usually tend to go ahead and ask around.
Why is Dorfner now the company stepping up and driving this forward with ToolSense? I'm truly convinced it's an excellent platform that will give us so much flexibility. In the future, from which we probably don't yet fully understand today, although I still see myself as a pioneer in this work, just how much is actually possible. That's why I'm here, to support him, of course. And to be honest, I genuinely enjoy it, taking new steps every day and actively driving forward the important topic of digitalization across all areas of our company, shaping the future together. And I think what we really need in Germany are more people who genuinely want to achieve something and make a real difference. I feel like it's kind of a makeshift digital ironing board, and I don't think we actually need to go about it that way. That's why I really appreciate you making this possible. Of course, things that work too. What can we do next? I'm in constantly brainstorming together with Benny during development on what other ideas could really work. So, Riggs, many thanks for the opportunity. And of course, we're happy to stick around if there are any more questions.
Many thanks to you and to the entire Bluffin team for your great involvement. That's exactly what makes us who we are.
Ja, freue mich auf die nächsten Schritte.